Mystery Chemist, and this is the Tuesday office hours drop-in homework help. And we have quite a few guests here. We have 15 participants, so thanks people that came in. And if you're watching later at home, that's fine with me too. We're going to go over rules to do the special problems for genetics. So the exceptions to Mendel's simple dominant recessive. And then we're going to go over a couple problems from the homework. We've had 2 questions requested so far. So just to review, guys, what you should be doing at home. Here's how to solve the problems. So you could pause it or screenshot that, code the problem, write down the genotypes of the parents. You'll probably have to use the word problems to figure that out. Determine possible gametes. That's pretty simple for these unless you're doing a dihybrid cross. And then make your Punnett square and do the cross. And then step 5, answer the questions. Okay, what are the genotype and phenotype ratios in general, or if you're doing something bigger, or you might just have to do part of that problem depending on what the question is asking. So go back to the word problem again and figure out what is it asking. Okay, I'm going to switch over to my iPad so we can go over the rules for these different ones. So I can share this. Oh, hold on, I got to turn on screen mirroring first. Okay, so we have the screen mirror thing. There we go. And then I turn this one on. You can see my iPad, yay. Connect. Allow and show all. There we go. Okay. So I have my iPad up. And then let's share it with you here too. Maybe. Okay. Share screen. Reflector teacher. Okay. Can you see that? Can someone chat? Can you see that? Maybe.
Yep.
Okay. Is it big enough?
It's kind of blurry because it's like too zoomed in.
That's, how do I fix that? I want to stop sharing and fix it. It like went off of my screen. This is going to be like the most useful YouTube moment ever. Oh my goodness. I'm going to close the reflector and try again. Okay. Let's screen mirror Chemist. Allow and show all. Okay. And then, okay. Is that more visible?
Yep.
Okay. So I have the homework number 2 here. And then down below, I'm just going to do general rules. So, because you had quite a few different types of problems that you needed to do. So let's see, homework number 2. So the first one that we had here was like incomplete and codominant. So let's go over the rules for that. Here we go. Stop keyboard. There we go. Okay. Okay, so for incomplete and codominance, you're going to use 2 different capital letters. So like for the problem of the wavy-haired people, wavy-haired is going to be the heterozygous one between curly and straight. So if you have both an allele for curly and an allele for straight, then you would get wavy. So for example, capital C would be curly. And then you're going to use a different capital letter for straight. So I'm going to use S for straight hair, and that's also going to be capital because they're both dominant. And then if you have one gene of both of those, neither one is going to overpower the other. Okay, they're going to show incomplete dominance here, or codominance depending on your case here. If you have curly and straight, you're going to show an intermediate trait, and so that intermediate trait would be wavy. So that would be kind of curly, kind of straight. It would be a little bit of both. So that's kind of the rules for that one. Blood types. Blood types are even more confusing because, oh, any questions on that one? Sorry. Okay. Blood types. Blood types have two things going on here. When they have more than two different alleles, instead of just calling it like a 3 allele problem, they call it multiple alleles. So that's a little bit confusing. Instead of just 2, there's actually 3. Oh, who's here? Sebastian. Do we let him in? Okay, I'll let him in. So for blood types, we're gonna have 3 alleles, okay? The other thing that's going on with blood types is that we have codominance. So 2 of the alleles are dominant and 1 of the alleles is recessive. So we have to be careful about how we do our alleles. So for blood types, A is always going to be capital, and that's going to be for type A. It's basically the first blood protein that we've discovered. We didn't come up with a creative name for it, we just called it type A. The second type of blood protein we came up with, another creative name here, I'm being sarcastic, it's type B. And those are both dominant. So look at, there's a capital A, it will always be A, and a B will always be a B, capital B. And then the third blood type, allele, we're going to use, there's 2 different ways here, and it's a little confusing depending if you use the American way or the international way. So we have A, we have B, and then we have type O. And type O is going to be shown here as a little I or a capital O. So type O is recessive. So both the international system and the American system have problems, because in the American system, you have a little I to show that there's no blood protein. And the international system, you have a capital O for recessive trait. Why would you have a capital letter for recessive? It makes no sense. So anyway, if you're doing blood types in America, to be type A, you could be I to the A, I to the A. That would be homozygous dominant. Or you could be I to the A, little I. So you would have an A allele and an O allele. That would be a type A in America. For the international version, you'd just be AA or AO. And you just have to remember that that capital O is recessive. Okay, so for type B, think to yourself, could you figure out what the alleles would be for type B? We'd have capital I to the B, capital I to the B in America, and the international, or you could be heterozygous, because type B is also dominant. So you'd have 1 dominant and 1 recessive allele. In the international version, think to yourself, what would it be? You could have a homozygous dominant, big B, and you could be heterozygous, big B, BO. Hopefully you don't have a BO problem there, like body odor, but that O is recessive, would be heterozygous. Even though it's a capital letter, super confusing. All right, and then the third type of blood is, there's only 1 genotype, okay? You have the A proteins, so you have the allele for type A, and you have the B proteins allele. So that's type AB. And there's only one way to be that. And this would be the codominant. And then the international version, it would be just a capital A and a capital B. And then the last blood type, right? There's 4 blood types: A, B, AB, and O. So to be O, you would have to be double recessive. So you're going to be little I in America, or you'd be big O, big O. Just have to remember those are recessive. That's going to be type O. And that means you have no proteins on the outside of your red blood cells. You don't have any chemical markers. Now, after they came up with this system, they found another protein, and they actually discovered it in rhesus monkeys. It's spelled with an RH. And so that's called the RH factor. And if you have the gene, you're type positive. And then you'd have that extra protein on the outside of your blood. And if you didn't have that gene, then you'd be type negative. So like O negative is the universal donor. And so the negative part means they wouldn't have that RH protein. All right, that's the rules for blood type. That's on homework number 2. And then incomplete and codominance and multiple alleles. Okay. Then the last thing here on homework 3, what did they have? Sex-linked genes. Well, let's go over the rules for sex-linked, shall we? Let's go blue. Sex-linked. So for sex-linked traits, you're going to have XX is a girl, and XY is a boy. And the key point for this one is that the Y chromosome had no alleles on it. It is so small, it only has 40 genes. So all these sex-linked traits don't have an allele. So basically what it means is, if you're a boy, you got your Y from your dad, right? Because mom doesn't get it, doesn't have one to give to you. And you got your X from your mother. And so whatever allele you got for that sex-linked traits, whether it's colorblind or hemophilia, or apparently if you're a type of cat, or I've seen this problem with the turtle, it could impact the color of your fur. Whatever allele you have from your mother on that X chromosome, that's your phenotype. That's what you look like. So, or you're colorblind or not. So basically for these sex-linked traits, if you're a girl, you get 2 copies of the allele, 1, 2, because you have 2 X chromosomes. And if you're a boy, you only get 1 copy of it, because you only have 1 X, and the Y has no allele on it. So whatever allele you have, that's what you get. So how do you write these? Well, let's see here for, should we do a colorblind? Like on homework number 3, the number 3 is for colorblind. Homework number 3, question 3. Okay, so for colorblind, normal vision is dominant and colorblind is recessive. So it does tell us that. So to code this problem, right? Remember this part, the code the problem, step 1. You're gonna figure out what is dominant and what is recessive. So I'm gonna use the letter B for blind, but you could use the letter C as well. I think B is a little bit better because the capitals and lowers look different. So big X to the big B is going to be the normal allele, and X to the little b is going to be the recessive colorblind. And then Y to the no letter is going to mean male. So notice there's no allele written after that Y. So this is how you would code sex-linked problems. You'd have a normal that's dominant, you'd have, or recessive. Read the problem, and that would be on the X chromosome. And then you have a recessive on the X chromosome, and then the Y to no letter for the male. Do you want me to keep going with that problem, or does that make sense once you code it?
Keep going.
Keep going. All right. I like it. So then step 2 is figure out the parents. Okay. So this is going to be step 2, parents. So I need to go back to the word problem and figure out the parents. Earl has normal color vision. His wife Irma is colorblind. Colorblind is sex-linked or X-linked trait, and the normal allele is dominant to colorblind. If they have a large family, in what ways should the colorblind trait affect the children? All right, so let's figure out what are the parents. Earl is normal, and that is the dad. So let's write the genes for Earl. Earl is X to the big B, and then Y to the no letter. So that's Earl. And then the mom's name is Irma. Okay, and she's colorblind. So because she's a girl, she has 2 X's, and she's colorblind. What's the only way to be colorblind? It's recessive. She has to have 2 little b's. So we go X to the little b, make sure you have that as exponent there, and X to the little b for her second chromosome. Okay, and then step 3, possible gametes, you would just set up your Punnett square, step 3 and 4. You don't have to do that extra bit, the FOIL method because it's not a dihybrid cross. Okay. And then for step 4, go ahead and fill that in. So in this one, you'd have X to the big B, X to the little b. So that'd be a normal girl. She'd have a normal vision. She would not be colorblind. And then look at this one, X to the little b, big B, X to the little b. That would be also another normal girl because she has at least 1 copy of the dominant normal vision. All right, let's check out the boys. What would the boys have? Well, they get an X to the little b from mom and a Y to the no letter from dad. X to the little b from mom on that one, Y to the no letter there. So what can we say about all the boys? All the boys are colorblind. So that's step 5 here. What could you say about the children? All boys are colorblind. And for the girls, all girls are normal. And then we'd also use the word carrier here. I ran out of room. Carriers. Okay, because they are heterozygous, right? They have X to the big B, X to the little b. So they're carrying that recessive trait. They would be carriers. You could also say they're heterozygous. That would be another way to answer that one. Okay, questions on that one? How do sex linked? Okay, I'm going to go to the chats then, and we'll do the problems that people need to do. Is number 2 the same as number 1 with straight, wavy, and curly hair? Yes, it would be similar rules for that. 2 different capital letters, and then the heterozygous would be that intermediate trait. Or palomino. Okay, so let's do number 9 here. A lot of questions from this in my email this morning. Okay, you're a scientist performing the first analysis of the genetic basis of the inheritance of the flower color in a certain species of wildflower. You begin, it's almost like Mendel in his Peas, looking at flowers. You begin your investigation by observing that there are 4 different color flowers. You have white, red, blue, and purple. Your first assumption or hypothesis is that you're looking at the effects of a single gene, so operate under that assumption. Your collect a variety of samples of all colors, take them back to your greenhouse, and begin making crosses. Remember, you're crossing members of a wild population. You have no idea whether any of your plants are homozygous or heterozygous. So here are the results. All right, so let's look at this one. We have, and we can just go through each step here to see what it does. White crossed with white. All the offspring always produce white. So what do we know about that? White is pure breeding. So do we know if it's dominant or recessive? We don't, okay? It could be capital W's or little w's, or maybe it has to do with red or blue. If it's recessive to that, like what if it's big R is dominant and little r is recessive? We don't know yet. We don't know, or vice versa. So let's look at some more. Red crossed with red. In some matings, it produces all red flowers. In other matings, some of them produce red and some of them white. Ooh, here's a clue about dominant or recessive. Which one is dominant here? We know red is dominant. Dominant, red. And we know white is going to be recessive here. So white is recessive. So I think for sure then we know, let's do another color. We're gonna say big R for red, little r for white. That's what we know after just looking at two of those. All right, let's go back to blue. All right, what about blue? In some matings, all offspring produce blue flowers, so all blue. In other matings, some of the offspring, some blue and some white. Okay, so what do we see here? Blue is dominant, okay? Blue is dominant. So maybe we use a big B for that. And white is recessive again. So maybe we update this. We can still use little r for white, it's recessive. And maybe we add big B, blue is dominant. This is similar to what we saw earlier on the first page with the incomplete and codominant. Okay, these would be showing incomplete dominance. All right, how about purple? Oh, cripes. We have a fourth color we got to figure out. If we cross two purples, what is going to happen? Okay, always produces a mixture of red. Oh, wrong color. Let's see. Always produces a mixture of red, blue, and purple. With purple most frequent, and followed by red and blue in roughly the equal numbers. So for this one, how do you think this, I mean, think about the color wheel. How do you get purple? You mix what two colors? Red and blue. So what if we had multiple alleles here, red and blue makes purple? What if that happened? RB equals purple. Would that make sense? Would we, if we cross two purples, would we get some of all three colors? And most of them would be purple and then equal ratio of red and blue. Let's try a little cross down here, shall we? So here's my purple flowers, red and blue, red and blue. That's a purple flower. And let's do a little cross. So here's a red, here's a purple, here's a purple, here's a blue. Did we get all three colors? Let's see, blue, red. Oh, we got blue and red. How about purple? Yeah, we got some purple too. Okay, so look at this. Did we get more purples than the other colors? Yes. Did we get about equal amounts, red and blue? Yes. Okay, I think we're onto something here. Red and blue are both dominant, okay? And if we cross, if we have an allele for both of them, then it's going to be purple. Okay, so let's add that to our chart here. RB is purple. And that's the only way you can be purple, is you have to have a heterozygous, a red allele, and a blue. I think at that point, you could probably answer all the questions at the bottom. So I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and answer that. I don't want to give away all the answers, but that's enough that you can start thinking about it and figure it out. And then for part B, make sure you have incomplete dominance. Okay, incomplete dominance. Okay, and what was the other one I needed to do? Homework 3, question 6. Okay. Homework 3, question 6. Okay, here's the sex-linked one. So how about I do part A, and then you guys can figure out B, C, and D. That should be able to work. So in cats, there's a coat color gene that is located on the X chromosome. That tells you right there that it's sex-linked. So follow the rules for sex-linked traits. This gene is a different gene from the black Siamese gene discussed in earlier problems. The gene has 2 alleles, orange and black. A heterozygous cat is tortoiseshell. It's a mixture of orange and black. So this is going to be that incomplete dominance again. So it's sex-linked and incomplete dominance, because the heterozygous form is going to show a mixture of the two. So then predict the female, the genotype and phenotype frequencies among the offspring of the following crosses. Pay careful attention to the genders. Yep, the males and female have different frequencies. Okay. So let's code our problem here first. So do A, and then step 1. And really, after you code the problem, you don't have to do that again for B, C, and D, I would think. All right, it has 2 alleles, orange and black, and those are both going to be dominant, and then the heterozygous is going to be tortoiseshell. So let's say, and remember for sex-linked, the alleles are only on the X chromosome. So we're going to use X to the capital O is going to be orange, X to the capital B, because it's dominant as well, going to be black, and then Y to the no letter is going to be male. And then we have one more here that's code. Okay, we have to get the tortoiseshell, the mix. And the only way to get mix is to get both alleles. And so this is pretty cool. You have to be a female to have this type of coat color. Did you know about this? This is actually true for cats to get that tortoiseshell, or what do they call them? I think calico. Tortoiseshell. Okay, so that's the only way you can be tortoiseshell. You have to be female. You have to have both an orange and a black allele. Okay, so that's coding the problem. Step 2 is figure out the parents. So let's go back here. A black female and an orange male. Okay, so black female is going to have 2 X's. And then let's look at our code. Black is dominant, so she's going to have a big B. Whoops. She's going to have a big B, and her second allele is also going to be a big B. And then the dad is going to be XY, as it's a male. And remember, there's no allele on the Y chromosome, and this cat is orange. Okay, it says that up at the top, orange male. So what's the allele for orange? It's going to have a capital O right there. Okay. Step 3 and 4 is figure out the gametes and do the cross. So you can make your Punnett square down here. Boom, boom, boom. Doesn't matter if you put mom or dad on which side or the top, you get the same result. Just make sure you always have the X's before the Y's. That usually makes the most sense. Okay, so this is going to be girl. This is going to be a girl. It's going to be a boy. It's going to be a boy. All right, and then what does this have? We had the O before the B, so this is going to be an OB, calico or tortoiseshell, OB. So look, all the girls will be that beautiful calico or tortoiseshell color. And they're going to be heterozygous. All right, and then let's look at the boys. Well, we got the Y here and the B. So what color is that boy going to be? Black. And what's the other boy predicted to be? Black. Okay, so this simplifies our answer. All the boys are black, and they are X to the B, Y. So it's kind of nice. There's only one way to get the boys and one way to get the girls. That won't always be the case for these, but you will see other examples of that farther down. Okay. Well, this is the end of the session. Let's check the chat to see if there's anything else. I don't see anything else. Okay. I'm going to stop recording and then open it up for other questions here. Let's close the screen thing. Bye-bye. Let's stop recording.